Deep in a forest, shrouded in an unnatural fog, stood a solitary cabin. Its wooden walls were weathered and worn, the windows like vacant eyes staring out into the gloom. The only sound was the rustling of leaves, a constant whisper that sent shivers down your spine. No light emanated from within. The cabin seemed to absorb the surrounding darkness, making it feel like a void in the heart of the woods. A young woman, Sarah, found herself drawn to this eerie place. She was lost, separated from her friends during a hiking trip. The sun had set hours ago, and panic was beginning to set in. The cabin, despite its unsettling aura, represented shelter, a beacon of hope in the growing darkness. As she approached, the cabin seemed to loom over her, its shadow stretching out like grasping claws. She knocked on the sturdy oak door, the sound echoing eerily in the silence. There was no answer, only the echo of her own heartbeat in her ears. Trying the handle, she found it unlocked. The door creaked open, as if inviting her inside. The interior was dark and musty. Thick cobwebs hung from every corner. The air was heavy, thick with the silence of ages. A fireplace dominated one wall, its hearth cold and empty. There was a palpable sense of abandonment, as if the cabin had been untouched by human presence for decades. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, Sarah decided to stay. She found a lantern and fumbled for her lighter, her hand shaking slightly. As a flicker of light pushed back the darkness, she noticed something strange. On the dusty floor, a child's toy lay abandoned. It was a wooden doll, its painted eyes seeming to stare at her with an unnerving intensity. The silence of the cabin was starting to get to her. It wasn't just the absence of sound, but a heavy, oppressive silence that seemed to press down on her. She tried to reason with herself, telling herself it was just the wind, just the creaking of an old house. But deep down, a primal fear began to stir within her. Then she heard it, a whisper, soft and indistinct, coming from somewhere in the darkness beyond the reach of her lantern light. It seemed to slither through the air, weaving around the furniture, chilling her to the bone. Her breath caught in her throat and she froze, listening intently. The whisper came again, this time a little closer, a little clearer. It was a child's voice, singing a haunting lullaby. The melody was distorted, the words unintelligible, yet there was an undeniable sadness to it, a yearning that sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly the lantern flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. Sarah jumped, her heart pounding in her chest. The whisper seemed to grow louder, swirling around her like a malevolent wind. She felt a cold hand on her shoulder, and she whipped around, her eyes wide with terror. But there was nothing there. The room was empty, the shadows cast by her flickering lantern. Taking a deep breath, she tried to calm her racing heart. It was just her imagination, she told herself. There was no one else in the cabin. That's when she noticed it. The cabin door, which she had closed earlier, was now slightly ajar. A sliver of darkness peeked through the gap, and the whispering seemed to be coming from the other side. A cold draught seeped in from the opening, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something else, something unidentifiable, but distinctly unsettling. Forcing herself to move, Sarah slowly approached the door, her hand outstretched. Her fingers trembled as they touched the rough wood. As she pushed the door open, the lantern light spilled out into the darkness, but it revealed nothing. The whisper had stopped, leaving an unnerving silence in its wake. Turning back to the cabin, she felt a presence behind her. The air grew heavy, the temperature dropping noticeably. She could feel her breath catching in her throat, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The hair on the back of her neck stood on end, and a primal instinct screamed at her to run. She turned slowly, dreading what she might see. In the doorway, barely visible in the darkness, stood a figure. It was tall and slender, its form shifting and wavering like smoke in the faint light. It didn't move, didn't speak, but its presence radiated an overwhelming sense of dread. Panic surged through Sarah, breaking the spell that held her captive. She stumbled back, dropping the lantern. It clattered to the floor, plunging the cabin into darkness. She didn't wait to see what the figure would do. She turned and ran, her heart pounding in her ears. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away from the cabin, from the entity that resided within. The forest seemed to close in around her, the trees twisting into grotesque shapes in the darkness. The whisper followed her, growing louder with each step she took. Lightning flashed overhead, illuminating the forest in a blinding white light. For a fleeting moment she saw the figure standing at the edge of the woods, its form stark against the lightning's glare. Then darkness swallowed it again, and she was left with the echo of the whisper, now a chilling scream ringing in her ears. She didn't stop running until she stumbled out of the forest, her lungs burning, her legs screaming for respite. She collapsed on the side of the road, gasping for breath, the horrors of the cabin still fresh in her mind. As dawn broke, casting a pale light over the world, she looked back at the forest, at the dark silhouette of the cabin in the distance. The sun's rays seemed to hold no power over that place. It remained shrouded in shadow, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within. Sarah knew she would never forget that night, never forget the terror that had gripped her in the cabin's embrace. She got into the first car that stopped, never looking back. But the memory of the cabin in the woods, the whispers, the chilling presence remained etched in her mind, a haunting reminder that some places are best left undisturbed. And as she drove away, she couldn't shake the feeling that something from that cabin, something dark and ancient, had followed her home.